This map highlights the British Empire in red at its absolute height, spanning nearly a quarter of the Earth's surface. The borders stretched across extreme distances, pulling resources from Canada to Australia and Nigeria to Malaysia. In total, this single governing body maintained direct or administrative control over 65 major countries and territories. When a nation expands outward for hundreds of years, it eventually hits a wall. The question is, at what exact moment does that expansion end and the collapse begin? Most people assume the peak happened in the 1700s or 1800s. In reality, the empire reached its maximum size in the early 1920s. The moment of its greatest reach immediately triggered its decline. The final massive chunks of land were added right after the First World War. The British absorbed new political mandates in the Middle East, taking on the administration of regions like Palestine and Iraq. Trying to govern these new, highly complex populations pushed a bureaucracy that was already managing millions of people well beyond its functional limits. Hitting that geographic peak in the 1920s stretched their administrative lines too thin. The system was severely overextended, starting a strict countdown to collapse. Keeping a tight grip on 25% of the planet's surface was a severe logistical problem. Direct military control on that scale was mathematically impossible. The solution was a system called indirect rule, a method of governing through pre-existing local power structures. The clearest example of this was in India. Instead of governing the entire subcontinent directly, the British maintained their thumb over 565 separate princely states, each with its own local royalty. Because the central authority relied entirely on the compliance of hundreds of individual monarchs, any shift in local politics threatened the entire structure. The sheer size of the empire on paper hid the reality on the ground. It was an over-leveraged system, completely dependent on the continued cooperation of the people it claimed to rule. The pressure finally broke the system in 1947. The crown jewel of the empire broke free as India established its independence and a formal transition of power took place. Once the massive, complex machinery of indirect rule was successfully dismantled in India, it signaled to the rest of the world that the British grip could be broken. Over the next few decades, the map rapidly shrunk. Dozens of the remaining 64 territories systematically fought for and won their own independence. The mechanics that made globe-spanning territorial empires possible simply broke down. A structure built over centuries collapsed in a matter of decades. So after decades of rapid decolonization, when did the collapse officially end? Most historians point to 1997 as the definitive finish line. That year marked the formal handover of Hong Kong back to China, lowering the British flag over its last major colony. While the physical territory is gone, a structural echo of that system remains active today. Currently, 15 modern Commonwealth realms still formally recognize the British monarch as their head of state. The empire expanded for centuries and fell apart in a few short decades, permanently drawing the borders and setting the geopolitical reality for 65 independent nations. Is your country one of them? Let me know in the